My name is Trey Mangum, and this is Shadow and X Opening Act. Each week, we sit down with some of your favorite Black creatives in Hollywood to discuss how they made it in the entertainment industry. This week, we're speaking to Michael Evans Behling, known most for his role as Jordan Baker on the CW's All-American. Michael spoke to us about his very first television role, which was on Empire, and how that gig set the tone for his career today.
It was cool. It was just a one-day experience, just drive up to Chicago. And, I think it prepared me in a way that I just got to experience a network set, on a large studio set for the first time. And, but I think it prepared me more for just the move to Los Angeles, right? I was in no way, shape, or form ready to move to Los Angeles or even try to go to Los Angeles. I was just, in the market that I was in. And after that aired, my manager, who I'm still with, he contacted my agent. Like, they knew each other, and he was like, I want him in Los Angeles by the beginning of 2018. And we made it happen. And even from there on, I auditioned for Jordan on Valentine's Day of 2018, and now we're here.
And you were also in college around the time that a lot of this stuff was happening too. So in that moment, did you think you're like, oh, I know that this is going to work out for me? Or did you have any sort of hesitation about going to LA, getting in the business? And were you just like, okay, I think I'm fine?
Yeah, no. So like the timeline was, I enrolled in university at college, in 2015, the fall of 15. And I left in December of 2016. And then Empire didn't occur until 2017. So I had, a whole year of I had worked like 6 different jobs at one point, trying to just, accumulate money to be able to afford headshots, acting lessons, things like that. Was there hesitation? Of course. Absolutely. But I was young, and I just wanted to have some fun. I wanted to experiment. I wanted to try something I'd never tried before, something that, brought me joy, and I could hopefully bring other people joy, allow them to forget about, the day-to-day that's going on in their life. So, after I left school, it was a grind. And, but there was hesitation. I'll say that for sure.
Yeah.
But I was just having fun, and I just wanted to continue to have fun and, continue to grow and better myself as an actor. And, hopefully I did that.
Yeah, for sure. And fast forward so many years later, and All American is such a huge hit. I want to take you back to the moment at which, the first season was airing on the CW, and it had a smaller but strong following. You see all the fan accounts that everyone creates for all the characters and who they're shipping and all that type of stuff. But then after season 1, concludes on Netflix, on CW, it drops on Netflix, and then it just explodes, and it has this mind of its own. So how did you feel as an actor to see everything kind of form like that in real time, and just see again, it had a huge audience on the CW, but you were introduced to so many more people who saw you in the show after the Netflix bow?
It was overwhelming. Truly overwhelming. Just the social media presence, the people, reaching out, talking about the show, sharing their ideas, and then telling us, the cast, how much they love our characters or what they loved and didn't love, and that was eye-opening to me, because I'd never just seen that much reach before. I've never been a part of something that had that much reach. So that's kind of what was the biggest eye-opening factor to me, was the fact that we reached so many people, and so many people found the show, enjoyed the show, to the point where they're binged it, and we're number 1 on Netflix for a week, 2 weeks. I don't remember what it was, and so that was just baffling to me, truly baffling. But as an actor, it made me excited. It made me excited to make season 2, and it made me excited to just be better, right?
Mm-hmm.
To better my craft, to work that much harder, to start to create. All American is a show, and it's a beautiful show, but it's going to end at some point, right?
Yeah.
But I got to start to create my own legacy, my own
Mm-hmm.
journey, and so that's kind of what almost kickstarted that for me, was seeing the reach and seeing how many people enjoyed the show and just fell in love with it.
Yeah, yeah, and I remember so vividly, even when the show got announced, it was kind of groundbreaking because there had never been a show with that many black characters, that many characters of color, really since the WB and UPN became the CW. It had
Right.
never literally been that much color on a CW show in a while, let alone a CW show that was aimed at a young adult demographic. So, how does that feel too? Kind of being a part of history, so much so where when it shows up on Netflix, I mean, if you know it's a CW show. But a lot of
Right.
people are like, oh, this is a Netflix show. But
Right.
how does it feel to be a part of a show that is kind of really leaving a legacy, even with the spinoff and universe that's kind of forming?
Yeah, there's a lot of melanin on the show, right? Which is awesome. It's awesome to see. I think it's a lot bigger than, you know, we created a show. We're on a show where kids can look at the show, kids can watch the show and they can see themselves, of all ages, of all race. And I think that's the beautiful part of it. Um, I don't even know like what to say, man. It's there's a lot of beauty in it. There's a lot of beauty in it
Yeah.
because for the longest time, like you just mentioned, we didn't see a lot of network shows where people who look like us,
Mm.
right? Or at least not an overwhelming, but the majority of the cast look like us, and now we can see that, and it's awesome. And you see a lot more shows, doing that, and it's cool. It's cool to be able to create something, be a part of something that people can look at and see themselves in, not
Yeah.
just not just people who you'll never look like. And so that I think is what's beautiful.
And also, I think another important part about that is, we can see ourselves sometimes in these shows, but we're not the central focus. We're usually
Right.
like the side characters. We're somebody's best friend,
Right.
that sort of thing. So I think that's kind of like, the black characters. That I mean, it is a diverse cast too, but like black characters aren't just the talk tos. Like it's not just the purpose of a scene isn't to get through the main character's issues. It's kind of like, and that's
Sure.
kind of like even with all the diversity in All American, it's kind of still like a true ensemble. Like it's
Right.
kind of all around about Spencer's world, but everything isn't about Spencer. So I think
Right.
that's another thing to note too.
It's accurate.
Accurate too, very very accurate. And when you were, reading for the role of Jordan and preparing for the show to come on air, were there any other shows or performances that you believe you may have took influence from? I know initially a lot of people think that the premise of the show is very similar to the Fresh Prince of Bel Air to some extent. Like
Mm,
I remember, I think it's either the pilot or the second episode where it's a scene of like Spencer just looking off into the
right.
Beverly Hills distance and stuff. So I want to know, were there any type of influences that you thought about when you yourself as the actor are bringing Jordan to life?
You know, I remember reading the breakdown, and I remember after my first audition getting called back and meeting with the creator, and she had told me that the show is kind of like a combination of Friday Night Lights and Beverly Hills 90210, right?
Mm-hmm.
Both predominantly white casted shows. And after all the final auditions and I got the role, I didn't really look into any shows. I kind of just wanted to create this character myself, and so I went to Beverly Hills for, I don't know, 10 days and just people watched. I just sat on the bench. I sat on benches. I just kind of strolled around and people watched and kind of just soaked in this aura of Beverly Hills, because it's different. It's different, man. It's 30 minutes away from me, but it is night and day. You know what I'm saying? And so I didn't necessarily I pulled more from my own experience, being a mixed kid in the Midwest. And,
Yeah.
and that's kind of where most of my, I guess, character with Jordan comes from.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of Jordan, going through the first season and the second season of the show, there's always been a lot of conversations about race and society. I always remember the episode where you and Spencer get pulled over by the cops, and that was a very poignant episode. And then to have everything that we've been through over the past year happen, you know, with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and the protests, and then that actually now playing out on the show with, you know,
Right.
being very involved with the Black Lives Matter and the storylines that are crafted. So, you know, both as an actor, how does that feel to like be a part of a show that wants to do that? And then two, how has everything that we've been through, you know, the protests plus just being the pandemic in general,
Right.
affected you as an actor?
Being on this show, and just, you know, watching it back as a fan, really is a beautiful experience. And I say that because we touch on serious issues throughout the world, throughout our country, and we do it in a way that is organic. We do it in a way where, you know, episode 3, that police stop, they could have just driven home, right? But and the cops could have never stopped them. But it was organic to the fact that, you know, these two characters are driving home in a red convertible in Beverly Hills. They're black. It's at night. It's like 2 a.m. So they get pulled over. And that's a true story. You know, that happened to Spencer Paysinger. And that's what I love about the show, is the fact that we can create these situations that these characters go through, that people in the world are experiencing, but we can do it in a way that doesn't feel like it's being shoved down your throat.
Yeah.
And so as a fan, as an actor watching the show, that's what I like. And, you know, credit to our writers, credit to our showrunner, NK, you know, for just creating a world and creating such a safe place for us as actors to be able to reenact these situations, as terrible as they are, to reenact these situations because they're real, right? And as much as television is an escape for people, right? As much as you want to watch TV and not watch, you know, COVID and not watch the things that are occurring. You know, I know that there's some shows that are in COVID worlds, but our showrunner didn't want to do that, right? Yeah. And, you know, we filmed during the pandemic, and it was tough. We're still in the pandemic. We're filming, right? And but our world is pandemic free, COVID free, because you don't want to turn on the TV and watch people with masks on whenever you have to walk outside the grocery store and put a mask on yourself, right?
Yeah, I'm so glad I have not seen an all-American scene where people have masks on. Like, it's just, I mean, yeah, it's a lot. So I'm glad I was not incorporated.
Well, I am as well. Let me tell you, because we would all spend hours and hours in ADR. I feel like if we had to wear masks, it'd be muffled the whole time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But no, yeah, the just how our writers, how, you know, NK has formulated this show, created this world. I think they've done a fantastic job because it's organic, and I think that's what I love personally. For me, is that I can watch this show and not feel like you're trying to force feed me information or force feed me things. And, you know, and my family says the same thing. You know, they say that we love this because, you know, I was adopted and my family's white. Right. And so they're watching this show and they're like, oh, wow, is that really, like, you know, da 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 da. And it's just more believable that way, I think.
You know, also that's the good thing about the show being on a network show, like a network like the CW, because I mean, a lot of times this content is like already out there, but, you know, it doesn't reach the people that like it actually needs to reach. People who may just, you know, be scrolling through the television, and then, you know, it may not be Netflix by the method they found it, but it may just have been like, you know, like just going from CBS, NBC, and then seeing this show on the CW and actually seeing these relatable stories, or these stories that look like things that may happen right in their neighborhood and they not notice. Exactly. It makes it more accessible, I think. So I think that's the good thing about it. Being like, I love all the love that the show gets on Netflix, but it's just something about it. Just something about it being on the CW also adds to the impact of the show. Yeah,
it's a totally different show than the CW's ever experienced.
This week's Black Entertainment Trivia Fact. BET initially began broadcasting as a 2-hour block of programming on which network? USA Network, AMC, or A&E? Find out the answer next week on ShadowandAct.com. And you are heading into another season of playing Jordan Baker.
Yes.
What are some things that you really haven't seen play out with your character that you would be excited or you would want to do as this new season films and, we start to see that on screen?
Right. Yeah. Well, we've seen Jordan win. We've seen him win a state title. We've seen him fail. We've seen him fall in love. We've seen him, deal with adversity with, Simone and fighting to keep her, and then, stepping up to be the good guy, in my opinion, to take care, offer to take care of her baby. Mm-hmm. I think what I'm hoping to see, as weird as it sounds, what I'm hoping to see is Jordan go through heartbreak. I'm excited, and I really hope that occurs. As messed up as that sounds, just because I feel like that'll push me as a person. I've experienced heartbreak,
that's very valid.
To be able to put it on screen is a whole different thing.
Yeah. So
if that occurs, then I'm strapped up. I'm ready to rock and roll and run it. And I'm sure at some point it might occur in some way. I don't know too much about season 4, so I can't, speak on it. But that's oddly enough one of the things that I would want to see is him really have to struggle and, either fight for his relationship even more than he already has, or just be broken up with and see what that is like. We've seen snippets of it whenever he wasn't cleared. He had the concussion. We've seen snippets. He was like he was depressed. In a depressive state, I'll say, where he didn't want to do anything. And so I'm curious as to how he'll handle a heartbreak. So that's what I want to see.
It's interesting that you say that because there's a lot of speculation about what's going to happen, especially with the Homecoming spinoff and everything that we've seen so far in that episode. So that's interesting because I think that a lot of people may think that could be in the cards for Jordan. Whatever happens,
and I don't know, man. They're real secretive about these season 4, so I have no idea. We're gonna find out. I'll find out with y'all. How about that?
And the great thing about watching a true ensemble show like All American is that you get to know so many different characters and then have, it's not just the main character and their relationship with everyone else, but kind of like the different relationships within all the rest of the dynamics that take place on the show. So what's your favorite part about being a part of this cast? And what are some things that you think people may not know about the relationships that you have and the bond that you have with your cast members?
I think, some of the most fun I have, I guess what I love about this cast is just how much fun we have. We go to work and, we can be shooting a 12-hour day, but time will fly because we're having so much fun, in between shots. And even whenever we're shooting, we become so comfortable with each other, right?
Yeah.
To the point where we can try to almost like poke at each other during some scenes. The director's okay. We'll poke some fun and try to make people giggle or whatever, and that's fun. Like who gets to go to work and do that? So that's what's honestly a blast. And I guess some things that people just don't know. I don't know. I mean, we're all pretty close. I remember during the pandemic, we would have like a weekly Zoom because we couldn't see each other. Right? We couldn't see each other. We weren't working. And so if it wasn't weekly, it was bi-weekly. But I remember we all would just hop on a Zoom and just chop it up and just see how everyone was doing, check in on each other. Like that was that was a very normal thing, whenever the pandemic was in full swing out here in California. And, we're just close. We're close. And you can see that on screen, I hope. I think that you can.
You can.
You can see the chemistry betwixt all of us, and that's what I love. And I love that I can go to any of my castmates with an issue, a problem, a concern, and vice versa, and we can talk to each other, and we can just hear each other out and try to help, and truly try to help. And I think that's what's beautiful.
Yeah. shifting gears from All American and just
Mm,
talking about your career trajectory so far, you've haven't been in the industry for too long as far as like having major roles, but like in this short amount of time, that is such a major role to be, a core cast member of a huge television show.
right.
So I want to ask you, what are some goals that you have for your career, both short term and long term? What are some things that you hope to accomplish?
Uh, Short-term goals. I just want to continue to create a good show as long as, All Americans running. Continue to, be a part of it and, work as hard as I can. I guess also short-term goal would just be to book a studio lead in a film. I was able to work on, Warner Brothers and HBO Max's Cinderella story, Starstruck, which was dope. That was up in Canada right before we started season three, in the middle of the pandemic,
Wow.
which was cool. And that was cool. I was a second lead across from Bailey Madison, and so that was a really cool experience. Got to work with, the original producer of the original Cinderella story, and his wife, directed and wrote the movie, and that was a beautiful experience, and really got to try something new, be a little bit more free. You weren't on like the network restrictions, and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Bailey and I were able to improv and toss different things at each other that we weren't really expecting, but I think made the film better. Um, Long-term goals. I think I would like to try directing at some point. I think I would
Oh.
like to try that. Um, people. A lot of my friends write, and I don't know, man. I can't think. I have so many ideas in my head. Let me tell you. But whenever it comes down to putting my hands on this laptop and typing, out the window, right?
It's tough.
But
It's tough.
yeah, I don't know where to start. Like John went to the store. I don't know. Anyways, directing would probably be something that would be interesting to me. Producing, helping create projects. Um, I've directed a couple of photo shoots and videos for my product, my clothing line, excuse me, Design at 5 a.m. And that's been a blast. But obviously adding words and feelings and emotion, that's a whole different animal. And so that would be
Yeah.
something. That'd be a challenge that I would love to tackle, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And can you talk about your clothing brand and like how that came about and how that kind of like goes hand in hand with your acting ambitions as well?
Sure. So the clothing line is called Designed at 5 a.m. I partnered up with three of my friends from my hometown. So we all went to the same high school. I believe they're actually 3 years younger than me, right? So they're all swimmers. Excuse me, two of them are swimmers, and they lived this 5 a.m. lifestyle all through high school because they wake up at 4:30 actually and go for a 5 a.m. swim practice. And for me, I didn't swim, so I didn't do that. I ran track, and then played volleyball. So I had 3 o'clock practices. But anyways, it really started for me whenever I left school, right? So after I left college and I came back home, like I told you before, I was working like 6 different jobs at one point. And the motto that I had just, I don't know, I'll say coined, but people have probably said it before, was business never sleeps, right? And so, my agent said to me, you got to shoot, in Ohio at 9 a.m. I'll wake up and, drive, and then I got to come back and, work a shift and do whatever, yada, yada, yada. It did not matter. I needed to do everything I needed to do in that day. It did not matter if I didn't sleep. It did not matter if I got an hour of sleep. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
that was my motto. And then we kind of just combined our forces and created this, Designed at 5 a.m. product. And so our motivation, I guess, as a customer would be, get up and start your morning. I know that you don't have to wake up at 5 a.m. to get things done. I understand that. Trust me. I don't wake up at 5 a.m. on my off days, but um, it's motivation, to get up and, go do something, go achieve your goals, write down some goals and go get after it. And so that's kind of been the motivation behind the brand and the motivation behind my career, is I lived by that rule. I would go to work, go to a photo shoot, go to an acting class, go shoot an audition, and did everything I could in that short period of time to get to where I am right now.
I would definitely say that anyone who is in the industry or adjacent to the entertainment industry will definitely, that resonates with
Yeah, of
like
course.
these early times. Even with me
Of
just
course.
being a journalist, like, you have embargoes that lift like super early in the morning. So like,
Yeah.
I think that's something that I'm like, wow, that's speaking to me a little bit.
Okay.
But yeah.
Period.
And I always like to ask people this too, especially the younger actors who are guests on our podcast, because there is sort of a renaissance of sorts going on within Hollywood of black storytelling. Black directors, black writers, more cast being diverse. So, what advice would you give to anyone who's an aspiring creative, whether that's like an actor, director, writer? What advice would you be able to give them that they could use in order to, further their position and get places like where you are?
Keep going. Two simple words, just keep going. No matter how many roadblocks you hit, no matter how many hiccups along the way, keep trucking, keep going. If you want to use trucking, I don't care. If you want to use keep going, by all means. But keep going. Regardless, keep moving. Don't become stale. Don't stop. Keep going. Keep moving forward. Keep moving sideways. Don't go backwards. Just keep going.
Michael Evans Behling spoke to us all about All American, talked about his career ambitions, and even gave advice to aspiring black creatives. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Opening Act featuring Michael Evans Behling. Be sure to leave us a 5-star rating and a review wherever you download podcasts. You can watch this interview in full as well as catch exclusive content on lunchtable.com. Just create an account and you can watch shows such as Reel It Back, Shadow and Act Live, and Rewind the Scene. Until next time.